It is a good morning. The sun is shining, beautiful weather, and we made bank today. So, my final targets have not been hit, but I just made $700 on the first trade. And honestly, I'm happy with that for the day. So, I'm not going to trade anymore. I'm just going to talk to you guys about what I was doing, what my entry was, what my exit was, as usual, of course. And yeah, as I said last week, I finally think that it's time for some big days because we were stuck in this big range. We were stuck in this big range for a few days and we finally broke out of it. So now I think that we have some good opportunities to make money. And in fact, on the very first day back after we broke out of this range, so Friday we closed up here, and we made some big profits. And by big profits, I mean we're basically not break even. So let me talk about what happened. So we had 930 over here. I was waiting for these equal lows. Okay, you know what? Let me just clear up this chart. So we have this big move, right? And it's hard to identify inefficiencies in a move this big, but I did it anyway. So the way you do this is, okay, you go to the daily, you see that there's this big thing. We haven't closed yet, so there's no fair value gap. And then the 4 hourly, we do have a fair value gap, and you grade that in fours. This is my layout for that. And then you keep going down. There's a 2 hour fair value gap. And the reason we're looking at the top one is because we don't expect it to go all the way back down here in such a bullish condition. So it did actually hit the consequent encroachment of this 2 hour fair value gap perfectly, but that's not what I used for my analysis. We also hit this fair value gap and we fully closed here, and we closed inside of the 1 hour fair value gap. But what I was actually looking at is this 15-minute fair value gap right here. And also I had the one underneath that marked out. So this was what I was looking at. And as you can see, I was waiting for these closes to see if it would hold the fair value gap. And yes, it's not perfectly within, but Nasdaq does that sometimes. And I have learned to trust it. So even if it closes slightly outside, so we don't look at the 1 minute chart for the closes, I look at the 5 and the 15, and it was spending a lot of time in this fair value gap. So how do you not get chopped up on something like this? Well, you look at the macros. So at 10 o'clock, it sweeps this, but there's no fair value gap to the upside, and it chops through this inverse fair value gap. So I didn't take a trade here. And then at 10:30, it swipes these equal lows one more time, and then it starts going up. So where was my entry? Let me get rid of this 15-minute fair value gap, but we know that we're in the 15-minute fair value gap. We have swept this low, which is equal to this low. So we've swept these lows right here, and we have a fair value gap right up here. It is small, but it's right there. So as you can see, it re-enters this fair value gap, and on top of that, we have this balanced price range. So here up and here down. So this is where I was looking to enter. Did I enter there? No. This is from 296 to 297. So that's down here, 296 to 297. But we have this 5-second fair value gap, and it holds very nicely. So I was waiting to see if this would hold. And since we had a 5-second fair value gap right up here for the downside, I did not want to buy it immediately. Also, there's this trend line phantom, so it could have wicked down there, but it didn't do that. So it held this, and then it created a bullish fair value gap. And this is where I entered 2 contracts long. So my first partial profit, because I like getting paid, was at these equal highs. So I saw these 2 highs, and my profit was right, wait, let's see, 15. Yes, so right above this high is where I took my first contract off, and then I trailed my stop loss to here, because we have this entry on this fair value gap, we have another fair value gap, and then we have another fair value gap here, and another one here, and another one here. So when my partial got taken off, I trailed my stop loss all the way up here to the mean threshold of this order block. And as you can see, it never got hit. And my final profit target was all the way up here. Actually, I have to cancel this real quick before I forget and before we get triggered short at the top of the range. So it did take me out over here. I was not willing to give back any of this profit I was making. My initial thought was, okay, there's these equal lows here. I do want to keep my stop loss under here, but that's a lot of range for me, and there's no guarantee that it would stop here. It could go all the way back down before going back up. You know, that's unlikely to happen, but still I decided to trail my stop loss once I saw this. So we had this fair value gap over here, and once I saw it hold and sweep these equal lows right here and then go all the way to the top of the range, I trailed my stop right underneath this volume imbalance right here. So we did get stopped out for a profit of $400 on that contract, and on this contract we made $300. So that gives me a total of $700 minus commissions for the day. I'm very happy with that, and I am proud of myself for the patience that I showed in this range, because we were chopping around quite a bit and I had to just wait for order flow to form. This was just building liquidity, taking out sell side, and I had to time it correctly so that we didn't get stopped out on here, and we waited for the fair value gap and we made a nice profit. So I do think that ultimately we will go up here at the very least, and potentially we'll make new highs on the day, although this is high resistance because this high is higher than this one. I think on the ES, no, on the ES it's the same. So yeah, I think we might go there a little bit slowly, but these highs are definitely in the scope for this AM session. It's just that I already made my money and I'm not willing to give it back, especially because we already caught a nice part of the move. So if this range from here to here is like this, we basically caught like half of it. And honestly, I am quite happy with that. So I'm going to chill out for the day, and the account is steadily growing, and I feel like the trading is definitely more controlled. I'm taking less losses overall, and I'm not forcing any trades, and I'm letting my winners play out, trailing my stop nicely, managing my risk and not over trading. So once I take a win, if it's substantial enough, and $700 definitely qualifies for me as substantial, then I stop for the day. And if my win is too small and there's no favorable conditions, I also stop for the day. So yeah, stay tuned. That's going to be it for this one. I think we have a lot of nice days coming up. So yeah, I'll see you guys soon and have a good one.